The 2026 VCT season is about to begin, and with EMEA still hungry for another international trophy, they've built some dangerous teams to try and reach those heights once again. Here is your ultimate guide to every team heading into the new season. I'm Karmine, and this is your VCT EMEA roster report. BBL's VCT team had a really solid season in 2025, just barely missing out on all 3 international events, and with some more time, they could have become a contender on the world stage. But they can forget all about that, because BBL Pacific were BBL's affiliate team in Tier 2, and they've been eyeing a slot in VCT EMEA for a few years now. This roster was the epitome of Turkish VALORANT. 4 young, mechanically unbelievable players in Larok, Loiter, Krevin, and Comeback, led by an equally talented IGL in Rose. They conquered the Turkish Tier 2 scene, and even after the loss of Comeback midway through 2025, Lovers Rock slotted into the duelist role seamlessly, sending the team to Ascension for the 2nd year running. They dominated the tournament, securing their own spot in the league for next year, but BBL saw an opportunity. BBL have made the former Pacific squad their own starting 5, putting all of their hope in the Turkish Tier 2 prodigies. They're a young team with nothing to lose, and with the backing of a historic Turkish org like BBL, they should be explosive to watch. But can they handle the pressure of the highest level? Fnatic had one of the most tragic VCT seasons ever in 2025, barely missing out on 2 international trophies. They'll be looking to clinch a championship in 2026, and with iconic dancing IGL Boaster and Turkish superstar Alfier leading Fnatic for a 4th successive season, they have more than enough experience at the top level. Their additions from 2025 definitely lived up to the hype too. Kayak swept the recent VCT EMEA Player Awards, becoming Player of the Year in his rookie season, and Crashies has decided to stay another season in Europe after his former team NRG stole the Champions Trophy away from him in Paris. But this Fnatic team has one huge change: the loss of the GOAT Chronicle to Team Vitality, and without his unwavering consistency in high-pressure moments, Fnatic's stability will come into question this season. It will come down to new initiator Vekaj to step up and fill some of the biggest shoes in the game. He definitely impressed on Gentlemates in 2025, but can he do the same on an org where the expectations are higher than he's ever faced? There's no doubt Fnatic will be aiming for a trophy this season, but the question remains on whether Boaster and head coach Milan can lead this team to live up to Fnatic's undeniable legacy. Gentlemates were relegated from VCT at the end of last season, but now they're back. They've been gifted a rare second chance, and they'll want to make it count. With their old roster being pulled apart in the offseason, their only remaining player from that team is Mini, the high-fragging Sentinel. He'll be relieving his IGL duties this season though, as former world champion Starkzo makes a return to the top level after reinventing himself as an IGL on French Tier 2 darling Job Life. Speaking of firepower, longtime Karmine Corp duelist Martin joins another French team as he attempts to overcome the inconsistency which has defined his play so far in the VCT. Mates are also looking to continue their trend of developing Tier 2 talent from last season, signing Bippo from Mouse on Duelist and importing Glyph from Winthrop University off the back of their surprise Ascension run over in Americas. This is by no means a star-studded roster, but Mates don't need superstars, they just need to survive, and maybe win a few more rounds when they're on 12. Foot used to be known as a consistent pillar of Turkish VALORANT, but with some pretty disappointing results in 2025 and multiple new Turkish teams entering the league this season, they'll need to step up their game if they want to recapture the Turkish crown. Their bright spot in 2025 was rookie Zeus, who seemed to be hitting an ace in almost every game early on in the year, and his crispy aim will still be at Foot's disposal this season. Longtime IGL Mr. Fallen and Sentinel player Yetajay also remain on the team, giving them an experienced core to build around. And that's where their new additions come in. 2 youngsters from the Turkish league, which if players like Woot and Alfier are anything to go by, is never a bad move. Former Foot stand-in Krosdali has been called up to the main squad in the initiator role, and Baha will take up controller duties. Foot's consistency has always been praised, but maybe taking this risk is just what they need to move to the next level. We need to talk about Giant X. They went on one of the most unexpected underdog runs VCT EMEA has ever seen to qualify for Champions last year, but it still feels like they're being underrated heading into the 2026 season. Cloud, the high-fragging and experienced IGL, is leading this team of young talent through their 2nd season together, as they look to prove their great end to the year wasn't just a flash in the pan. Westside made headlines with his unreal headshot percentage, 41% at Champions, and Initiator and Controller players Flickless and Grabinho were the supportive kings that set up Duelist Aura for success. If they can keep up that form, there's not many teams that can deal with their robust system, and with a tournament win under their belt in the off-season already, there's no doubt they'll be heading into this season with confidence. Just because they're not the most iconic roster of all time, doesn't mean they won't beat your favorite teams like it's just another day at the office. Keep an eye on Giant X for Kickoff. Karmine Corp have never really lived up to the fans' expectations in VALORANT. With consistently confusing roster decisions and a lack of direction in the server, they'll need to lock in this season to keep the hope from the Blue Wall alive. Their 2026 roster will be led by Aves, who's stepping up to the IGL role after a solid season with KC last year. Sugetsu also remains on the team, and if he can get back into his peak form on the Sentinel role, we know he can be a major element in a championship-winning team from back in the day with FPX. Their new additions begin with an import from the Pacific League. DOS9 impressed the entire community with his high fragging controller play on Boom, and KC will be hoping that the change of region doesn't change that. KC have also snapped up Levin from BBL to play Duelist, who is another extremely strong mechanical talent, and Shados is the final piece of the puzzle, another former world champion, and his reunion with ex-Gambit head coach Eng will be a welcome one for sure. On paper, this roster has an incredible amount of firepower, and is built around a history of international success. But paper doesn't win trophies. Karmine Corp's fans are just desperate for some top results. Will this be the team to finally provide them? Na'Vi have been led by IGL Angel for years, but 2026 marks a new era for the team as he steps away from competing as a player and becomes the head coach for Na'Vi. He's got a talented squad at his disposal for this season, so let's see what he's working with. Former championship-winning teammate Xiao continues in the initiator role, hoping to rekindle that unbelievable form from 2022. Hero continued to impress on his signature Sentinel last season, proving that his time on Fnatic as a stand-in wasn't just a fluke, and Ruxic became the most recent Turkish player to completely dominate the league, nearly taking the team to Champions Paris. Both will attempt to maintain this form heading into the 2026 VCT season and bring Na'Vi back to the international stage. As for their new players, Sociable joins Na'Vi from BBL after a strong rookie season last year, and Filu has consistently shown flashes of potential but will need to step up on this team filled with talent. Na'Vi definitely have the tools to join the upper echelon of VCT EMEA, but can Angel lead them back to the top? Team Heretics became one of the most loved teams in the VCT after their international showings in 2024. Benji Fishy was dominating opponents with his robotic aim on Cypher, Rien's high IQ and high fragging initiator play placed him among the elite, Woot was one of the most exciting rookies we had ever seen, almost bringing them to a championship in Shanghai, and with the roster led by the sibling duo of IGL Boo and Duelist Miniboo, Los Niños felt like a group of true friends as well as an incredible team. But as 2025 rolled on and their results paled in comparison to the previous season, there were questions over whether this team would ever reach the same heights, and so when an opportunity for a shortcut back to the top presented itself, Heretics took it. Comeback was one of the most anticipated rookie talents coming into the league in 2025, and his raw mechanical ability, especially with the operator, was undeniable. After a strong stint on Gentlemates at the end of last season, Heretics have decided to snap him up in place of Miniboo for 2026. He might have a higher peak than Miniboo in the Duelist role, but without the Bootherhood of Boo and Miniboo, will Heretics be able to recapture the magic? Team Liquid's VCT roster in 2025 wasn't highly rated at all coming into the start of the season, but after qualifying for all 3 international events, we saw just how effective the leadership duo of legacy Sentinel player Nats and head coach Lohan was for the team. But with their Star Smokes player Kiko leaving for the world champions NRG, Liquid have almost completely rebuilt their roster, and Nats will look to IGL another underrated team into the spotlight in 2026. Liquid's Duelist Camo is the only other player remaining on the starting 5 from last season, but with ex-Heretics Duelist Miniboo joining the team, it remains to be seen how the roles will shake out. That's not to mention the addition of another Duelist player, Purpo, who's coming off of a hot stint on Job Life in Challengers EMEA, with the roster being rounded out by Pacific import Wayne on the controller role. An interesting move that could turn out to be a stroke of genius. Their revamped roster is another set of players yet to fulfill their potential in the VCT, but as we've seen time and time again, you can never doubt Nats. Team Vitality are building another super team for the upcoming VCT EMEA season, but before you say it's going to crash and burn like last time, just listen to this new roster. Let's start with the big news. Chronicle, the GOAT, will be playing in Vitality Yellow this season. Chronicle will be looking to bring his unmatched experience to a new team for the first time since 2023 and expand his already stacked legacy in the VCT. He'll be reuniting with ex-Fnatic teammate Durka, forming a duo we already know can dominate the VCT scene. But firepower wasn't Vitality's big problem in 2025. They struggled to find an identity with so many big personalities on one team. They're looking to remedy that by bringing in the ultimate vibes guy, Yampy, as their IGL, and his former BBL teammates Profect on the Smokes role and Pal as their head coach. The roster will eventually be rounded out by young prodigy Sayonara, but until he turns 18, Vitality will need a sub, and they've kept Unfake from last season's roster as a temporary stand-in for Kickoff. They won't be at full strength right away, but with a confident core supporting an iconic duo, this Vitality super team might finally be the real deal. Ulf are maybe the least known Tier 1 Valorant team in the world, but this team is worth knowing about, so let me bring you up to speed. Another team of talented Turkish rookies, this group of friends came up through Premier at the start of 2025 and went on to dominate both EMEA Challenges and Ascension. At the beginning of last season, nobody knew who these guys were, and now they've rightfully earned their place to compete among the best. They're led by Recon Initiator IGL Neki, with a high-fragging supportive cast of Audaz and Fabian on the Smokes and Flash Initiator roles respectively. But unfortunately, Ulf's wealth of firepower is channeled through their two 17-year-olds, Sop and Echo, and them being so young means they can't play in VCT EMEA until after Kickoff. They're bringing in two other strong Turkish talents in Demur and Stern as stand-ins, but maybe don't expect to see Ulf's full potential until further into the season. But to be honest, any team with 5 Turkish players is a threat, so don't write them off just yet. Pacific Esports won their place in VCT EMEA through Ascension, but being affiliated with BBL meant that there was always the possibility of losing their roster, and that's exactly what happened. BBL have promoted the entire team, leaving Pacific to create a new team from the ground up to fill their slot in VCT. This new Pacific roster will be led by ex-Team Liquid Academy IGL Cupo, someone who's been around the VCT scene for years, and his talented teammate Ninja also joins Pacific, forming a solid foundation for the team to build on. The team's Turkish representation comes in the form of former world champion CNED, who proved he can still hang at the top level last season, and 2 exciting Tier 2 prospects round out the roster, with Alarante's strong stats on Focus earning him a place in Tier 1, and 7 transferring over from TSM in the Americas after losing out in the Ascension Grand Final. It's definitely an interesting roster with something to prove, but until we see them play, there's no telling how far they can go. This VCT EMEA season is shaping up to be electric. Tune into the Kickoff tournament from January 20th to see everything unfold. I've been Karmine, and this was your 2026 VCT EMEA Roster Report.